the way here with me. Lost souls in revelry, running wild and running free. Just two kids, you and me. I say hey, 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 living like we're renegades. Hey, 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 living like we're renegades. Renegades. Long live the pioneers, rebels and mutineers. Go forth and have no fear.
Welcome, Renegades, Rebels, and Outlaws, to episode 6 of the Chong Show with Foxyheals. Here today we are joined by our guest, Emillea, and we will be talking about our thoughts and opinions and review for the Warcraft movie, Warcraft The Beginning. We'll start off with our guest here, Emillea. We ask all of our guests this, so how did you get started into WoW?
I got started from my best friend, Sprite. He introduced me into it at like 6th grade, so about, I don't know how many years ago, it's been a while. Um, but from then I've been in and out of WoW. I started back in late BC, and I've been with it ever since, in and out of every expansion. This one, I believe, has been like one of the longest I've stuck with.
And Emillea was at first a PvEer and then switched to PvP once they joined with Alliance Revolution. And obviously, Emillea, the Monster Fest winner for Guildnass, still looking for that first championship, and a officer in the Alliance Revolution. So, welcome to the show. And we'll go ahead and jump in here, starting with Foxy. When did you first hear a Warcraft movie was in the works? What was the year? What were you doing at the time? Were you playing the game?
I heard about it when they announced Legion. I had I had it up in the background, and I believe we were doing either arenas or battlegrounds at the time, and I was listening to it in the background, and I heard it.
And what about you? Going as far back as you can remember, when did you first hear a Warcraft movie was in the works?
Oh man. I think it was about 4 years ago or something. I remember Sprite mentioning something to me about it, and I've always wondered if they were gonna do it. I was hoping so. I think it was about 4 or so years ago that I first heard about it.
Yeah, I think it's been a while for all of us since we first heard about a Warcraft movie being developed. When I first heard about it, it was in 2010, I want to say, and I was really excited for it. I couldn't wait. At the time, it was a different director, and they were talking about different directions for the storyline. So I was excited. I was 15, I want to say 16. So just put that in perspective. Uh, and it's been a long ride to this point where we can sit here and talk about our review for the movie. So let's go ahead and start with our ratings. We'll go ahead and start with Foxy. Out of 5 stars, how would you rate the Warcraft movie?
Solid 4. Wasn't too bad. Wasn't. Mm, it could have been better in areas, but it wasn't too bad.
And what would your rating be for the movie?
For me, I'd put a 4.5, but I don't know a lot of the origin of Warcraft. I've played the Warcraft games, and I've played since BC, but I still don't fully know like the beginnings of the game. I played Warcraft when I was like 6, so it's been forever. And so a lot of it made sense because I could piece it together, and so I would give it a 4.5 just because it gave me more of a background that I may still not understand fully.
All right, I will go ahead and give it a 2.5 out of 5. I thought it was a decent movie. I wouldn't go see it again. I thought it hit a lot of parts straight out of the park. I thought it got a lot of home runs, but I think it also had a lot of foul balls too. A lot of missed opportunities and a lot of just downright failures, I think, with the casting, with some of the directions they chose to go in. My expectations were really low heading in. I thought it was, the reviews had not been kind to it. A lot of the reviewers were pretty biased because they weren't Warcraft fans, so, say what you will about that, but commercially in America, the movie has been a flop. It has been just a downright bust. But over in China, it's shattering all kinds of records. So heading in, I was like, all right, we'll see how it goes and everything else. I wasn't surprised. I wasn't disappointed. It was just an okay movie. 2.5 out of 5 for me. We'll go ahead and move on to what we liked and what we disliked specifically. We'll start with Foxy. Give us some positives.
For me personally, I like that, watching the movie, there's recognizable places in the movie. You're like, yeah, that's Stormwind. Yeah, that's Ironforge or, whatever. And you get it back into the game and like, man, okay, yeah, I can see this. I remember this from the movie. I remember that from the movie. And that was a definite plus for me.
Am, what are your biggest positives about the movie that you enjoyed?
First off, I loved what they did with Gul'dan. Gul'dan was amazing, I felt. I feel like they got him really good and everything. And like Chuck said, a lot of it, seeing it there, recognizing it. My girlfriend was next to me and she could probably verify. I was sitting there as each place showed up, naming each one.
You guys are stealing all my notes here. God damn it. My favorite part was seeing the big locations that we have used for guild events, primarily SNF, just our headquarters in general, the Gates Iron Forge. That was amazing. At that point, when I saw that, I was like, okay, I've seen Iron Forge on the big screen, Black Rock Mountain being in the background. I was like, oh man, that is so cool to see that. And then also the cathedral in Stormwind, I thought that was cool to see. Obviously, tying in with how central those locations have been to our events and our officer promotion ceremonies, so on and so forth. I think the CGI was good. Overall, I think the orcs were good, the wolves were good. I feel that if there was a weak point to the CGI, it was Medivh's magic when he first met Khadgar in the library. I know a lot of people were raving about the CGI magic overall. Wasn't a fan of that scene. It kind of just felt lame, out of place, whatever. And I also thought Medivh's initial transformation when he was just starting to turn into a demon, kind of, you could tell it was makeup. It looked like something out of a B movie. Wasn't a big fan of that. Last positive I have, Gul'dan. It's no secret that Gul'dan is a favorite of mine. The biggest thing I was looking forward to was seeing Gul'dan on the big screen, and I feel that they knocked him out of the park. I feel they did a hell of a job with Gul'dan, with his character, with his... Immediately he had a presence on the screen. He felt unique. Yeah, he was a bad guy, but he also had motivations that were there that made him not just a straight up cartoon villain. Duratan and Draka, Thrall's parents, I feel those were two other characters that they really did a good job with. And finally, Fell Magic. I think they missed on the arcane a lot. The Alliance side magic. I feel they missed on a lot of those scenes. It just kind of felt eh. But with the Fell Magic, with Gul'dan draining the soul out of that guy and draining the soul out of that deer to revive Thrall. All of it was just, it was awesome to see. I think warlocks everywhere got giddy at seeing that. We'll go into negatives here. We'll start with Foxy. Foxy, what didn't you like about
Well,
it?
for me personally, it felt like it was made by a horde player. You pointed it out yourself. The Fell magic was 3 times better than Medivh's magic. Was kind of eh. Um, some of the CGI stuff was hit or miss. It felt more like it was something out of a B movie or recorded fireworks or something. I mean, it was just hit or miss here, hit or miss there. I think that's about the highlights.
And Am, what about you?
I just liked kind of the size comparison and how weak they kind of made the humans. And the other one was how they portrayed like some of the other races. You didn't really see them at all. And I know you didn't get to see much of the Horde, but I felt like it should have, the Ally at least, should have been a bigger part of it because they were being invaded.
Let's talk about that a bit. I mean, you have this movie, you've been hyping it up for years, and the majority of your audience is coming from the World of Warcraft game. Now, granted, a large portion of the player base does play humans, and that's it. They don't mess with the other races. But on the other hand, you have so many players that they only play dwarves, or they only play trolls, or they only play gnomes, whatever. And I really feel like they got left out on this one. And I feel like if your connection to Warcraft is through what you see on your screen, what you're playing as, be it a gnome or a troll, and you go to the Warcraft movie and you don't see any of them, that's got to be very disappointing. You don't see your race. And they did show the dwarves. I'm not sure if you guys noticed, but they also showed the Draenei for a brief second, but we really didn't, get anything else on them. I totally agree with that, Toby. That was one of the big missed opportunities. I understand the Warcraft 1 storyline doesn't really involve those other races, but even at that, maybe they should have gone with Warcraft 3 right off the bat. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But Foxy, what did you think about the other races being excluded?
I think for what they're trying to accomplish and the story that they're planning on doing, they didn't throw in the other races for that reason. Would I've liked to see other races in there? Yes, but I think the bigger picture didn't allow the other races into it. So I'm 50-50 on that one.
Well, we'll talk about the story and everything later on. And as I said, they did get at the end, they got the elves. They didn't get night elves, they got high elves, and they had dwarves. You didn't see gnomes, and you had the humans. But that's generic fantasy. You see that in Lord of the Rings, you see that in every other fantasy. So I guess my point is that, hey, if this is your big Warcraft movie and you're trying to bring in the audience from the game, maybe you should have chosen a different storyline or a different part of the story to tell that involves those other races. My negatives for the movie, I feel Lothar was miscast. So Travis Fimmel, he's from Vikings. If you guys watch Vikings, you'll see a lot of similarities between Lothar and Ragnar Lothbrok. So I feel like he didn't play the Lothar that is my Lothar or the Lothar that's in the lore. For me, didn't work. I feel Lothar was miscast. I feel the entire Alliance plot felt lackluster compared to the Horde side. I feel like had it been just a movie about the orcs and their struggles, and maybe you included the Draenei, it would have been a much better movie. But they kind of shoved the Alliance storyline in there, and you could tell, like Foxy said, it really showed. And finally, getting to the point I hinted at earlier, I feel this whole storyline and everything else, if they're going to do Warcraft 1, they're going to do it justice, include all the races, everything else. I feel like it's just too much story for a 2 hour block of time. And I think both of you will agree to that as well. I feel it would have been better suited to a TV series. If you could get Stars or Showtime or whatever and get, 5 seasons, it would have been much better. And you would have been able to flesh out all the characters and go into everything a bit more detailed.
That probably would be a lot better than a movie.
I feel about the same. It should have been. I think a TV show would have been much better to depict the story and everything, give it seasons, because it would have just taken a lot less time.
Well, the last thing I'll say on that is, come on, Blizzard. Come on, Blizzard. If you're gonna make a movie, if you're gonna make a one and done movie, or you're gonna just put it all on the line with a movie, you're gonna take this risk. Don't pick the most generic Warcraft time period you can pick. They picked Warcraft 1, and basically Chris Metzen was not around then. They had no idea what they were doing with the story, and they basically just made orcs versus humans. There was no depth, there was no complexity, nowhere near what you have now with a lot of the lore. In my opinion, they should have gone with Warcraft 3 right off the bat. Showcase your biggest original storylines. Showcase Thrall, Arthas, Show us the stuff that we want to see. Warcraft 3 has the Night Elves. You'd get the different races in there. It would have been better off. I think they really set themselves up to fail from the start, assuming A, that they're going to get 3 movies, and B, assuming that, oh, we'll be able to go in and just add a lot of stuff and beef up the story a bit, when really it's just generic orcs versus humans.
Yeah, Warcraft 3 probably would have been 3 times better of a movie. Just for the story alone, the Arthas story alone would have been just a movie by itself, you know? As you said, there wasn't a story in the beginning. I completely agree with you.
Same here. I completely agree. Like I was looking forward to seeing Arthas on the big screen, to be honest. Like that would have been nice. Like that would have had a lot more, and they play just the Lich King in general. I feel like was played up a lot anyways through the WoW expansion and WoW players. Lich King was everything.
Well, we're forgetting someone else too. There's a night elf by the name of Illidan Stormrage who would have also been in Warcraft 3. And like Arthas, there's just a big fan base for Illidan, and that would have brought even more people in. So I just feel like, could you do it in 3 hours even? Like, okay, just 2 hours. You couldn't do all of Reign of Chaos in 2 hours, but break it in parts. Make them want more. Bring more people in. You cannot tell me that the Warcraft movie would have flopped if people found out that it was Reign of Chaos, and even the people that didn't play Warcraft 3, the people that played Wrath of the Lich King or Burning Crusade, they would have come to see Illidan and Arthas on the big screen. Like you said, Illidan and Arthas are 2 characters, I'll include Illidan there, that they don't just appeal to the people who played Warcraft 3, they also appeal to the people who played WoW during those expansions. So you're hitting both those audiences. So I think overall we can all agree that Warcraft 3 would have been a better start. Talking about a TV series, and I think there in the future at some point there may be potential they may be able to start up a TV series. I'd know I'd watch it every week, but there's another possibility right there. Start with Warcraft 1 and then you have a full season to flesh everything out. I think it'd be 10 times better. So moving on from that, we have given our positives and our negatives, the failings of the first movie. I feel like it could have been a heck of a lot better, and I gave it a 2.5 to reflect that. But my standout performance, to get back to a positive note here, would have to be a combination of Gul'dan. I feel the actor who portrayed him, even though he wasn't himself on the screen, he was behind the character. He did a fantastic job, and I also feel that Duratan and Doomhammer were both played exceptionally well. So, Foxy, your standout performance?
Standout performance, as you said, Gul'dan. Duratan was awesome. I personally like Blackhand too. As far as the movie in total goes, I enjoyed it because of, seeing the story come to life, so to speak. What part of it was put out there. And seeing it on the big screen and then getting on WoW and seeing it in the game, that did it for me. I don't know if there's going to be another one. I hope so. But if not, I'll still buy it.
And your standout performance and your final thoughts on the movie?
Gul'dan, obviously. I also agree with Chuck on Black Hand. I really liked how they did that and everything, and just seeing how his hand was done. I felt like that was really well done. And I did like Thrall's parents. I just wish they had gone deeper into kind of Thrall's story with that, or shown a bit more of Thrall. The final bits on the movie, I agree with Chuck. I would see it again. I really enjoyed the movie because of seeing the history and the lore behind everything, and just being able to then go and see it in game. Like it gave me nostalgia for BC and that where the portal was open, and that was like the main quest is to fight back the horde.
I would say my overall thoughts on the movie, I feel like it was decent enough for one and done. I feel like it, as I said earlier, it didn't surprise me, it didn't disappoint me. It was just a decent movie. Looking back, we had a Warcraft movie. It's there, and I feel like the Easter eggs for the Warcraft fans make it a success on its own, because I think if you rewatch it and you see Blackrock Mountain, you see Ironforge, it's always going to be exciting to see those things in a movie. That will conclude the Chong Show with Foxyheals, Episode 6, our review of the Warcraft movie, Warcraft The Beginning. Moving forward here, we have a interview with Glenn Moreau coming up and a bunch of other content to cover here with Legion on the horizon. Em, it was fantastic having you on the show here, buddy.
Thank you for having me. It was a great time being here and talking about the movie with you guys.
And with that, we will conclude episode 6. As I said, up next, Glenn Moreau interview. We will be talking about the PvE veterans past, how he got into WoW, everything else, and talking about his upcoming big war game 7, Heroes of the Storm Return. So that will be on episode 7.
Thanks for listening, guys. See you next time.